Guys and girls, girls and guys, gather round if you wanna die. Presenting what only shows up 3 months a year, Neptunia season is finally here! I would be a terrible salesman. It's summer! And you know what that means? Aside from 100-degree heat, it's time for Neptunia Season 3! I gave a quick explanation of my update, but I'm here now to review a spin-off of the Neptunia franchise. This one, not starring Vert because herty-der, she wasn't popular enough this time, but that's not here nor there. IF is one of the protagonists this time, of Superdimension Neptune vs. Sega Hard Girls. Let's begin. Like most Neptunia spin-offs, Superdimension vs. Sega Hard Girls takes place in an alternate universe, where only Planetune exists, I guess. If you're looking forward to Noir, Blonde, Best Grill, PC, or the CPU candidates whose names don't begin with N, you're out of luck. It features Sega reps and Sega reps only. To put the story simply, IF is riding in a destroyed world, and amnesiac known as Segami has a vision of the Planetune CPUs Purple Heart, Purple Sister, Iris Heart, and Orange Heart fighting the Sega Hard Girls Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, Game Gear, and Mega Drive. IF takes the unconscious Segami to the Grand Library and finds out that parts of history are being erased. In order to find out what's going on with history, Histoire of the Grand Library, if I hadn't mentioned that before, modifies IF's motorcycle to travel back in time.
What? What the hell? Who gave you permission to modify my f***ing bike?
God fucking damn it, IF! Watch your fucking language! Yeah, these characters are rockin' swear words this time. And I gotta say, it's funny as hell. Someone's gotta fill in the slack since Blonde's not here to cuss. Now, here's something else. The interaction between Segami and IF are largely sassy. They consist of Segami leading IF to their destination, IF wondering how she knows this or what to do next, Segami either doesn't know or responds with a sassy comment, and repeat 4 more times. At points, this is funny, like when interacting with Neptune and Saturn, or when the three don't pay attention to the road and accidentally run over a sleeping Plutia. However, at times, I feel like this can seriously drag at points. Segami's 2 needs some burn heal. Because of how repetitive it is with her interactions with the Straight Man IF and the Neptune Netbike, it makes me not enjoy her as a character. Probably a bit much to place her at number 2 on my old list for that alone, but there's more later. Oh yeah, speaking of Netbike, after failing to stop Sega Saturn and Neptune from fighting, the Sega Saturn history gets erased, and Saturn disappears with Neptune's soul not only going inside IF's bike, but also changing the bike's color from green to purple. Each part of Sega's history leads to a piece of why the history is getting erased in the first place. The Time Eater, no not that one, takes control of Iris Heart, which Mega Drive attempts to stop, causing a chain reaction as even though they both don't want to, Neptune and Saturn fight to prove who's stronger, which causes Nepgear and Game Gear to fight later on to provide a better life for the people they care for, to which the world gets even worse, and Uzume and Dreamcast are fighting due to their straightforward thinking that defeating each other will fix the mess in the world, which leads to IF's world currently. After fixing all of the time streams and fighting Iris Heart, IF's world is fixed. All 10 of you join forces to defeat the Time Eater with the help of God Mode Segami. Oh yeah, Segami's a god. That was like barely hinted at, but okay. Ultimately, this story is fine. From what I could tell, there doesn't seem to be any plot holes aside from some things unimportant to the plot that I'll bring up later. Moving on! The gameplay for Superdimension vs. Sega Hard Girls, unlike other spin-offs, is fairly similar to the Rebirth Trilogy and Mega Dimension V2. However, you can only have IF or Segami as your leader. You can still do all of your basic moves, symbol attack, and jump, though in dungeons now there are these little gray tokens, as well as a baseball in every dungeon. Why? I don't know. However, there are few additions to their abilities. At different points you can climb on ropes to reach areas you couldn't get to before, crawl into some certain areas for the same purpose, and to get a bit of fan service. However, the best addition is the run button. Yeah! By holding the right shoulder button, you can now run, and you can make a run and jump in order to reach places a normal jump couldn't get to. You know what? That's cool. Maybe that's why IF changed her long jacket to a much more reasonable one. Battle has a bit more strategy to it. You can change your battle formation team of 4 to different positions to use Lily support attacks, as well as to emphasize a different stat. Adding to the strategy of the game, you can also change what class you have in order to change up your characters even more, adding more to the game. Though I personally didn't bother, the classes I had were fine enough. In combat, things are a bit dicey. The basics are still there, you can still do your attacks until the outer fever gauge fills up, you can still use your items and skills, however transformations are in the skills folder as well. Plus, EXE drives can only be used when your inner fever gauge fills up by doing attacks and other actions, reaching 100% and jumping to claim a fever star, which prevents your enemies from doing anything. Also, most characters have transformations this time. Even IF, who's given Burning IF specifically for this game. Why does she have it? We don't know. She's had it before the game starts, and it's just something she can do. We don't hear about this in the future either. Also, Segami can transform into various Sega hard girls. However, this only gets brought up, like, twice in the story, isn't really added on to, and doesn't completely grow Segami's stats, but changes what Segami can do. This is the other downfall for Segami for me. However, the HDD for the CPUs is still the same. The dungeons are back, and while they have altering designs, the basics are still there from the Rebirth trilogy. The only original dungeons are TOYPOLIS, as well as the Last Blocks dungeon with a ton of walls to climb. However, what's cool is the time travel aspect, as the dungeons change depending on which era you enter it from. More areas will become available, meaning more items and more chances to grind for experience. And you're gonna need it, because holy hell, these boss fights are hard! Like, a bit too hard at points. This is due to the non-linearity of the game's second act, as one of the bosses you face, Dreamcast, is extremely difficult. Same goes for Neptune or Sega Saturn in the third act. At points, it really gets jarring with how difficult it is compared to the rest of the game. Ultimately though, the game's a lot of fun. I enjoy the extra sense of strategy added to the game, plus IF being the straight man in this game is an excellent comedic role for her. Still not bright on Segami though. With that said, I'm Pcuspard, and see you next Nep.